3 months, I guess.
in San Francisco.
And the ship then was going back out, and it was moving down to San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
So I caught a ride with one of the other officers' wives
Mm-hmm.
and rode down to San Diego with her.
Okay.
And we got to San Diego. It was very nice because we had a nice little house in a pretty green, grassy neighborhood. And the first time he went out to play tennis,
Mm-hmm.
he ran into Dr. Lovett.
Oh, really? Wells of it, yeah.
No,
Oh,
not
the other
Wells,
one, yeah.
the brother.
Well, yeah. I forgot his name.
And his brother had just married Louisa Wilson here in Owensboro.
Yeah.
And I knew Louisa.
Yeah.
So we had a good time. We would get together and
Mm-hmm.
cook, and the men would play tennis.
Mm.
And then we hooked up with another officer and rented a house in San Diego. And that was when I would catch a bus, I guess, every day. And I guess it would be when he was home to keep Larkin.
Yeah.
I didn't take her with me.
Yeah.
And I would ride downtown. He had this idea that while we were in the Navy, I was having that jaw trouble. You know,
Okay.
couldn't,
Yeah.
my bite or my jaw would get locked and I couldn't shut it.
Wow.
And he found a doctor downtown in San Diego, and I catch a bus and go down there. And this guy would grind my teeth. He'd reset my bite.
Mm.
And I did that, I don't know how long. And then we moved to Coronado, California, which is on down the coast.
Mm-hmm.
Every time the ship moves, we have to move.
Yeah.
And we had an apartment there, right downtown. It was a wonderful place. And that was when we went to the Roosevelt Hotel, which was there, very old,
Yeah.
beautiful hotel. And we got there, and of course we didn't have any money. And no prices on the menu, and
Yeah.
we didn't understand that. We didn't know it had a meaning. But we could have had anything on the menu.
Yeah.
But we chose a cold plate because
Yeah.
it appeared to be the cheapest thing on the menu.
Yeah.
We ate there. We spent one night in the Roosevelt Hotel, and that was all. It was, I'm sure, very expensive. But then when we left there, I flew home. I'd been gone 3 or 4 months to California, so
Yeah.
then I came home.
No.
And then waited for the ship to move again. Then the ship went to sea, so that meant they were going to be gone
Yeah. Months.
several months. And then when the ship returned, it went to Oregon. And we had a little house, cute little house in a pretty neighborhood there. And we stayed there in that house, I guess, for 6 weeks. And then I believe the ship moved again. And then we got an apartment in this terrible little strip mall kind of out in the country. And there was nothing out there, nothing. And the only thing that I could do would be to cross, not the street, but a highway, and go to the grocery. That was the only thing there was to do.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was like one of those gas station grocery, you know. And Larkin, while we were there, Larkin fell on, it had grates on the floor that the heat came out of, and she
Yeah.
fell on one of those. And I don't know, I guess she still has the marks.
Yeah.
Had this checkerboard on her leg where she
Yeah.
fell on that. But we would stay there, and some nights he didn't get to come home, so we would be there in this, I say, god-awful place by ourselves until he could come home again. And then when we left there, I think we went, where did we go then? I don't remember. Maybe that was when we rented the house with the other couple, and they had 2 children. Maybe that's what it was.
Okay.
It was not in San Diego. It was in another place with another name, but it was not too far from the Tijuana.
Hmm.
And so we went one Sunday afternoon, we went to, wasn't Tijuana, we went to something, started with an E, a place there, California, and that was nice. We had dinner there. But then the next time we actually went to Tijuana, and I was really scared to death in Tijuana. It was pretty wild.
He told me one time a story about, I don't know if I misunderstood it or if there's more to the story than what I heard, but he said they got us all together, a bunch of the people that were in the military, and they said, so how many people have had ROTC? And he raised his hand. They said, how many people have had 2 years of ROTC? And he kept his hand up, he only had 1. Then he said, how many had 3 or some number? And finally they said, okay, you all come with us, and they made them officers.
Oh, well, I don't know.
And you think of how honest Bob was. He was like the most honest man ever. And for him to basically just flat out lie. I'm
But
like,
then, at one time he was, well, I don't know what I want to call him, like the preacher on the ship.
oh, really? Yeah.
Well,
Chaplain.
He was the chaplain. And he, I guess, had services.
Yeah.
And while he was on the ships, that's when he learned I think, the sign language and the...
Morse code?
All that.
Yeah. And he also told me we were in Gatlinburg, and we were sitting there, I think it was a travel lodge we stayed at this.
Yeah, they used to have travel lodge.
Yeah, so we were there, and he said, John, look over there. And there was this building they were working on, and there was this welder. He said, look at that. And I said, yeah. And he said, now look away. And I think he was probably making a big deal out of it, a bigger deal than there was. But he said, you don't want to look too long, because I got welder's flash when I was in the military. And I was watching these guys welding on the ship. And when I did it, I did a lot for too long. And when I did, I was blind. And he said, I mean, not for life, obviously, but I could not see any quality at all what I was doing. And they had to put patch over my eyes, and and we were going into battle, and I couldn't see,
I hadn't heard that story.
Yeah, and I thought, wow, so obviously he didn't lead the ship into battle.
Now somewhere, and I came across all his papers about the Navy, and I know I didn't throw them away, but recently I looked for them and I couldn't find them.
Yeah, it's like me. I had that picture of Bart Starr that I got to meet Bart Starr, and I couldn't find it. And I said, oh my gosh, how could I lose that? That's such a great thing to have. And I lost it, and then I found it the other day.
Oh, you did? Well, I'm sure sometime. I'm telling you that because you all might run into it, and it would be all his discharge and everything from that.
Well, it was, there's a lot of stuff I'll tell Robert, or I'll somehow mention a little bit about what my dad did to somebody, and I'm always going, this doesn't really sound right. It doesn't make sense, or I don't have any sense of certain parts of it. So it was I thought, wish I could have asked Dad, because I would like to say, so tell me, you're the most honest man I've ever known, and you lied and got to be an officer because of it. And he told me that story. Why didn't I then go, Dad, that's not like you? One time I said, well, Dad, I don't have to report that on my taxes because it was paid in cash. He said, John, I'm disappointed in you. Of course you report that just because it was not paid in check. I mean, you always report what that's the right way to do it. There's one way to do things. It's the right way. And he was, he was sincere. I don't think he was just saying that, but then the story he told, I wonder if I misunderstood it, or if he just kind of didn't realize.
I never heard that story.
Yeah. It was, and he had another one that wasn't about.
I can't believe it would be that easy get to be an officer.
Well, back in the day, unlike now, everything's got all these, procedures and stuff. They probably need some officers, and they said, well, maybe if we get some guys that have some ROT experience, they would have something to build on. Let's just see who has any, and we need some officers. We need to get them cranked through the system and ready to go out and do their job. So maybe they were just needing to get it done, and they didn't go through all the legal mumbo jumbo you would normally do.
Yeah, the officers on the ship, I remember going to the ship, and they were, when I went, they were sitting in a booth. It was a great big booth, and about 6 or 7 of them in there. And I guess I don't know if I guess they had officers' quarters where they slept. I don't know. But
Yeah.
it was a pretty rugged way to live on
I
that
figured.
ship.
Oh yeah, it's not like it's nice. It was steel.
Every time you were out in the hall, and every time you went in a room, they had
little, like a step up.
It was raised up.
Yeah, you had to step through the door, and that's, I think, to keep water if it got in there, to keep it from just going throughout the ship. And it's just metal. Everything was metal, I would assume. And cots that were just bare minimum places to sleep. And I'm sure it was. It was rough living. Not something
I've had pictures of the place where they ate, and it was just like a big garage or something.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely.
What is that?
Chimes outside.
Oh,
Wind
okay.
chimes. And then there was another story. This is not about war, but this is, he told me when he was in college, and you wouldn't know this one, but I thought it was an interesting story. He said, I went to maybe Center or whatever, and they let us off in a train, and then we went, and we had to carry these bags so far, and then he said, you know what? He saw this cart, and he got the cart, and he said, let's go back to the train and let other people, we'll help them with their thing, and we'll ask for money.
Yeah, that was in Danville.
Yeah. And he said, we'll get that, and then we'll haul your stuff. And he said they made all kinds of money hauling luggage.
Spent all afternoon going back and forth, bringing people to.
So he told you that story,
Yeah.
I don't know how much
Yeah,
he
that
made.
was his first, I guess, job where he earned any money.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. Before that,
Ice
he
cream
had
cart.
ice cream.
Yeah. And that was a pretty crazy thing in itself. I mean, with that picture of him with a fleet of ice cream carts,
Now, he
guys.
was in charge of them.
I know, and he was like a fraction of their age, and they were his employees.
He wasn't even in high school. I don't think.
I know. And so it was just such an interesting thing that all these guys come to work for this young boy,
Yeah.
But and I know I have that picture, and it was all damaged and torn. I got on computer and restored it and got all the torn places fixed, so it looks like a brand new photo and everything. But the thing is, when you look at the skyline, the buildings behind it, there was a place I bought a guitar one time called Smith Music. It was right across the street where that Smith Music was, and so I knew exactly where that was shot. Of course, that gas station that it was in, it was not there when I was a young boy. But there was one other thing I was thinking about. Go ahead. You need to go.
Well, I know one thing I